Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new series where we're looking to provide updates on WeatherXM company and project. And today we are going to be talking about our recent SwissBorg deal. So to do that, we've brought in our COO Thanos and CEO Manos to help give an overview of what we did with SwissBorg and why we're so excited about it and the impact it's going to have on you guys, our community. So with that, I know I'll give you a little brief intro, but maybe Thanos and Minos, do we want to give your background on this in terms of your, how you came to WeatherXM?
Yeah, we actually call it targeted rollouts. Thanos is correcting me all the time about this. SwissBorg was the first implementation. So SwissBorg is the name of a centralized exchange, by the way, for the ones who don't know, which is a quite unusual one. It's a hybrid, so it's both DEX and SEX at the same time. So yeah, how did this idea came up? We have been building the network for almost 2 years now, I think. And if you go to our Explorer, you can see there's a high concentration of stations in the US and in Europe. And there's like huge gaps in Latin America, Africa, India, Asia in general. Which is a shame because when we started the project a few years ago, we always wanted this to be a global project. And at the same time, we had individuals who bought the hardware, bought the weather stations, but they found that we are very demanding when it comes to deployment details, and they couldn't be bothered to set up the stations. So we had stations, waiting forever in their box. So we thought, let's create a virtual situation, a virtual weather station where people who are interested in the project, they can participate by subsidizing the cost of the hardware, paying for the hardware, and getting a portion of the rewards without having to go through the trouble of setting up the station themselves. Someone else will do it for them, and we undertake this role. And at the same time, this will allow us to deploy the stations where we think it matters the most. So countries that lack weather infrastructure, that local people there can benefit from improved forecasts. And we can also explore business opportunities there, monetizing on the weather data from a position of having something that no one else has.
I gotcha. And so how did you end up, getting SwissBorg or coming up with the idea of partnering with SwissBorg specifically? Why did you choose SwissBorg, or why did they choose you guys to do this?
So actually, I have been preaching for this idea for quite some time, and I was exploring, trying to find ways to make it a reality. We initially started looking into crowdfunding platforms, and specifically Gitcoin and Giveth. And we actually tried to set it up in there, but we were kind of blocked through the process because they were we were violating some of their terms, essentially, if we were going to do the full-blown idea that we had. Essentially, what's happening is that in Gitcoin, when somebody makes a donation, they don't expect any rewards back. So all projects are treated equally, and all donations are, steered to the projects with transparency and so on. The way that we have structured it, there is a almost like an investment, like an impact investment from the person who is subsidizing the cost of the hardware. And so that we couldn't set it up in Gitcoin. And we realized that since this is seen as an investment, then we should go to the places that people are acting as investors, which is the centralized exchanges that people speculate and buy tokens and so on. We prefer to collaborate with decentralized technologies and decentralized platforms and so on. And SwissBorg has this unique characteristic that is essentially like a front based on a DEX, which is becoming a trend lately, which is very good. And they recently did a similar campaign for another project. So we thought, and they also bought some weather stations from us as well. So yeah, so it
Okay.
was half coincidence, half strategic decision. We spoke with them, we discussed it, and we came to the conclusion that this is a good idea. So we
Well,
set it up in June.
well, I think now we can all say it was a good idea. But Thanos, what did you think when Manos came to you and said he wanted to do this, targeted rollout?
Well, in the beginning, the Giveth campaign we did, to be honest, was not that successful. So we got a bit worried. I got scared that if this is going to work. But when the SwissBorg deal came along, I was excited because it really shows the opportunity, and the depth that we can go with this.
Were
So
you
I
were
was I
were
was
you
excited,
concerned though?
and at
Okay.
the same time, I still remember the discussion about, so how many stations, how much money should we raise? I remember those discussions. They were kind of heated because we started with bigger numbers, and then we said no. I came in from operation. I said I get my perspective that it's essential that this is a successful first rollout. So anyway, we ended up with a pretty decent number. I think that is both impressive in terms of what we can do in a short period of time, but also
Mhm.
feasible. And how the way the rollouts are, this rollout is going right now. It's going to be successful. So.
Well, to your point, I don't think we mentioned it yet. Manos, how much did we raise, and how many machine or stations did we deploy,
Yeah, so
and
we
and
raised
where?
$600,000 in the form of dollar stablecoins and WXM tokens. The majority was WXM, and which results to 2,270 weather stations. So the way we structured it was that we are selling essentially a weather station at the retail price, and we're giving an additional weather station for free. So essentially, it was like a 50% discount on the hardware,
Mhm.
which means our company is not making any margin out of this. We didn't want to do this for profit. We were not selling stations. We were just converting capital into infrastructure. And yeah, Thanos is right that my initial goal was way higher than our ability to execute, to ensure at least a successful execution. So yeah, so we had to tone it
Well,
down a bit, and we landed with those numbers, like something in the range of 2,000, 3,000. 3,000 was the top number, the max that we could deploy. So we had caps, actually. We had limits. We had structured in such a way that it couldn't go higher than that.
well,
And
okay. Well, so Thanos, what do you think when Manos says, "Hey, I just raised 600K and 2,000 stations. Now
That was
go place
okay.
them."
That's fine as a number. That's great.
if we had an extra
The
zero, it would be a problem.
when time comes into play, that's when the
Mm.
discussion gets rolling. So the deal was structured that in 4 months we need to deploy those stations. So that's the critical point. How much time do you have to find new partners, new deployers, and how much time? What's going on with the retail and our stock? And the models, another thing we had to juggle
Yeah.
operationally. So these things came into play, and I think it was pretty tight deadline, but obviously we committed to that. We wanted to commit also because we need to move fast. We want to grow the network as fast as we can. So we
Well,
got
well,
four
walk,
months.
walk, walk me
Uh,
through, like, how did you find these deployers? I mean, what is a deployer even? You know? How did you find these people to place the stations? And why are they placing it? Like, what's their incentive on it?
So the incentive is the other half of the rewards, basically, because the rewards are being splitted. That's a new functionality now in the WeatherXM station network, that you can split rewards. And so 50% goes to the deployer. That's the initial, let's say, incentive. But I think these partners they see further than that, going closer to use cases, selling data, being involved in local communities, where they have their own businesses and operations. So we started researching. We already had some resellers, and it became a combination. Like half was research, half was people we knew, and we started talking to them. And we have created a pool of deployers. There are 11 in this rollout, 11 partners. And they are diverse, I can say. So we've got interest from completely local people that do IoT projects in communities that are close to agriculture communities and farmers. But we also found other partners that are more global. So they could take more countries under their under the belt.
Do you have any like interesting stories about placements of these? Like, are they on top of like any major mountains we might know or points of interest?
Mountains, I would say. We are
I think
aiming
I saw
for
a picture of someone like on a boat carrying one of our weather stations somewhere remote.
We have many pictures coming, so and a lot of cool deployment photos and stories. We are just about to trigger that because deployments actually started as we speak. We have deployed our partners have deployed the first stations. Very interesting and diverse environments. I can point out that some of them are rural, so it's completely out of the urban environment. Some do include urban environments, like India. So in India, we're allocating a lot of stations. So there we're also doing some coverage in urban environments where it's needed as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And well,
Pictures
I
coming
think this
soon. I mean,
I've
that's all.
already seen pictures. We already have some pictures, but you're saying more are gonna be rolled out in the near future, right?
They're all deployments will have a photo anyhow, because that's a way that we check the deployment also, except from the data and everything else. We also add a deployment image into the
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Manos, can you tell me about the timeline? 4 months seems kind of like a long lag between, you know, investing in this project and then getting the rewards back. So can you tell me, what goes into that?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wish we could do this faster, and probably in future iterations we will. But 4 months sounds like a lot, but in reality, there were so many things that we had to sort out during that period. First of all, Thanos touched a bit on this before. Hardware, having stock of hardware was not a solved problem, in the sense that we already have 3 different types of stations. We have cellular, Wi-Fi, and helium. And at the beginning of the project, we didn't know what quantities we're going to need from each one of them. So as the partners and the countries were finalized and the specs of its use case were finalized, we were in a position to know exactly how many devices we're going to need. And so when we started, we were guessing rough numbers, and it turned out like somewhere in the middle of the preparation, like 2 months down the road, we had miscalculated one of the devices, so we had to increase to put more stations to be manufactured. Basically, there is a lag there. We have a few months of lead time in the factory. So that was one challenge. The other challenge is the legal approach, because there's many ways to structure this from a legal perspective. I think we found the ideal one, but it wasn't so obvious at the beginning because obviously not a lot of people have done this before. I mean, this idea is circulating among different projects, but usually it happens unofficially from individuals or from small companies that they do it on the side. We're trying to structure it in such a way that we can repeat again and again and eventually decentralize it and hand it over to other people. So we wanted to make sure that it's properly structured on the legal side of things.
Mhm.
And last, the selection of partners was also a time-consuming process because we wanted to make sure that the deployers are, as Thanos described before, they can help us in other areas as well. So they are, if they're system integrators that they're doing solutions, vertical solutions that they need weather data, that's a perfect fit. We want to, it's not just box moving, it's essentially they are strategic partners in the project. So we wanted to make sure that we have the best possible. And I think we have, by the way, we have
And now we are ready. I think what Manos describes, the important thing is that we also learned through this procedure for the past, 5 months. We've been actually building it as we were doing everything, having the deal going, but we were also coming up with the contracts, the legal terms with the deployers. And now we are much more mature, I think. And as Manos said, we can definitely go faster next times.
Well, and so how many countries were you guys did we end up deploying to?
So we are deploying in 17 countries right now. The main targets were Africa and LATAM in the beginning. And finally, we are sending stations in 9 countries to Africa and 6 countries in LATAM. And what came up as a really nice opportunity was India. Later on, partnering with another DeConde project, actually. So here comes the diversity again of the deployers. So one of our deployers is a pure DeConde project. Others are not. So it's an interesting mix, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. And I
we
mean,
have like one extra small, very interesting project in Australia, small number. So different kind of country, but the community that we're addressing there is an also cool project. So this makes up the 17 countries.
gotcha. I mean, can you share who that DeConde project is that we were working
It's
with?
DABA.
Or
It's DABA Wi-Fi. Yes, no, I forgot.
DABA
So,
Wi-Fi?
sure, absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to publish actually, all social media will be flooded with the use cases here and the partners we're going to be announcing from next week. All the deployers, it's public information, obviously. And like we've been discussing with them is that we're getting into these deals for the long term. We are looking forward to do more rollouts with these kind of partners. So DABA Wi-Fi, a really cool project in India that they're
Yeah, it makes
doing.
sense.
They're rewarding people to set up Wi-Fi hotspots in India, but
Which pair
again, the
nicely with our
investor
Wi-Fi
can do it from
stations.
anywhere in the world. Yeah. So
Okay, that makes sense. And then, I mean, I think we've waited long enough to get to the thing probably people watching this video are most interested in. Manos, when can they expect to receive rewards as the people who,
So
went into this deal?
So the contractual obligation and the plan from the beginning in the SwissBorg details was that the rewards start end of November. So that's basically our deadline as well for having ideally all of the stations deployed. But even if some stations are not deployed, we're gonna fulfill the rewards
close.
anyway.
It looks like we're gonna use December as well, but contractually we're covering any difference. This is the small delay we've been having, but we're confident now that by the end of the year all stations will be deployed.
That's great. Yeah.
Rewards will flow. So from
Rewards will flow anyhow. In December,
All right.
rewards are gonna flow anyhow. So
Rewards are coming. All right. Rewards are coming. Um, so what do you guys want to achieve with future rollouts? I'm sorry, targeted rollouts. What would you like to achieve? Are you looking for specific partners? Do you have any timelines? Yeah.
Let me comment on the rewards in general, which is for both this attempt and in future ones. The goal here was to use the station rewards to essentially power all the stakeholders, like incentivize all the stakeholders to do their work just with the rewards, which means that the deployers are getting paid from rewards. The end operators of the stations, which most of the times are different people from the deployers, are also getting paid from rewards. And of course, the initial contributors of capital from the centralized exchanges are getting the rewards back. So the goal from the beginning was to attempt to create something that is sustainable, that all stakeholders are happy with receiving a portion of those rewards, and at the same time, the infrastructure that we're building can generate revenue to the project by selling the data produced to third-party companies. So I think that's the goal of the project in general. But in this particular case, we kind of minimized it, limited it to a number of partners, to a number of locations, and that's why we're calling it controlled rollout, because we are controlling. We're not only targeting the areas, but we are also controlling a number of elements there. And this is what we're trying to achieve: to be sustainable and grow at the same time. If we figure out how to do that, and it's obviously not easy, then we have created something like a virus that just expands and grows all over Earth, having weather stations basically appearing everywhere and improving weather forecasts and weather services.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, we are placing all these stations. You brought up a good point. And, I personally am excited to see so many stations. I think someone mentioned nearly 700 stations are going to India, which I think will make our data quite unique. But can you maybe fill us in, Thanos, on who you were targeting in terms of the data side on this to complete the equation? So why did we want to, go to the global south and maybe rural areas or these countries?
initially, and the first goal here is this is an impact investment situation. So initially, we wanted to help local farmers that they could not afford, basically, to have data or better forecasts locally. And at the same time, we know that if we produce data in those areas, because they become available to the network can sell that data for other purposes, right? But the local people could benefit also directly from those. As we moved on, to be honest, it was really hard to allocate all stations to farms and for this specific use case. So we created a second way of impacting, which is donating part of the rewards to funds that relate to people that have been impacted from weather disasters locally. So this gave us some freedom, some degrees of freedom to deploy stations to other areas that we might not have a direct impact, but we also trying to move closer to use cases and trying to get to partner with our deployers to find the right customers and get the stations near the places that we can have the demand that we're looking for. And one of our partners, for example, Sensoreta, they're already connected in many use cases around those areas, and we're looking forward to see them coming to life very soon.
Yeah, makes sense. And did you have something to add, Manolis?
Yeah, just want to touch a little bit on those sectors that Thanos mentioned. Like we know for a fact from all these years in the weather industry that those areas don't have enough weather data. So who needs this data? Well, actually meteorological companies that are doing global services. So that's one type of customers that we already have, that we sell, that they want to have actual weather conditions from locations that basically NOAA or other popular networks don't have stations. So that's why we went with the Global South. The agriculture that Thanos says, there's a lot there to unpack, but essentially these are the people that can benefit the most, and at the same time we feel like they have the more the most of the struggles, and they receive most of the pain when it comes to extreme weather conditions, and they are exposed in the most risk. Their livelihood essentially depends on this, and I've been often saying that 50% of the global food production comes from those countries, and yet they don't have the necessary tools and infrastructure to protect themselves from weather. And it was always part of our vision to be able to create some kind of insurance, weather protection, um, instruments there, by collaborating obviously with other companies that have more experience in this. And that's why we think agriculture is definitely a sector that is worth the effort of us deploying weather stations there. But we couldn't, it's not easy to like only have agricultural use cases. So we had to diversify a little bit and to enable other use cases as well. And we have, as a team, going back in time, we have a lot of experience with energy utilities, energy companies, and we know those types of customers. They need weather data to optimize their energy forecast
Yeah,
production.
and I might add also, Mano, here the governmental spend. So specifically for this rollout, some of our deployers directly we are deploying to help research in Mexico, for example. So we're going to be helping. We're deploying 200 stations there, and one of the projects is research from a specific agency from the government that they want to do very important flooding research. So
Can we say the agency?
that's another aspect right there.
Yeah. Can we say the agency name, or is that under wraps as of right
Difficult
now?
to pronunciate, probably.
Yeah.
It's more of a language barrier. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Like
I
like
guess,
the river before. Somilco. Xochimilco. Anyway,
Milko is the place. Yeah.
it's the place of the photo that Alex mentioned with
Yeah.
with some people on a boat holding a weather station.
all
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
this info is going to be on our website by the time this video airs, actually. So yeah.
all right, perfect. Well, I think that brings up, kind of my last question related to the SwissBorg deal. Who are we going to partner with next? What does the next deal look like to you, Manos or Thanos?
So there's we're exploring two directions. One is replicating the same structure now that we have a better grasp on what we want to achieve, and we already have the experience and in part of the work ready. So we are in talks with various platforms that have this unique characteristic between text and sex, and so yeah, we're trying to find a new platform to repeat the same um, campaign, let's say funding campaign. But there is in parallel, we're working to a completely different direction, which is a fully decentralized version of this, where in some of my talks, in other presentations, I call this Gitcoin for dipping. So I think there should be a platform out there that individual grantees, people who want to have a weather station, they can apply, and people who want to help that become a reality, they can donate or invest.
Mm.
And the two of them, they should get together directly without intermediaries. But there should be some kind of staking, collateral, something involved there, so the one cannot cheat the other. So it's a difficult problem to solve. It's similar to Gitcoin, but then you bring hardware in the middle and and long-term operations and so on. So I think it's more difficult, but it's feasible. And so we are working towards that direction as well.
Okay, excellent. I think that concludes our talk
I have an
today,
abbreviation of
Thanos.
the agency if you want to go back to that. They're called the Corena,
Sure.
but
Okay.
it's really hard for me to say all the all the in between. But you can keep
Okay.
Corena, and you want to use that.
It's on
Okay.
the web.
Yeah. It's on the website. Okay. And then, so do you guys have any last thoughts or final messages on this deal in general? Thanos, we can start with you.
Um, I would like to point out the fact that we were in the World Meteo Expo like a month ago, and we kind of presented this way of building a network, and we got a lot of interest. So,
Mhm.
this is really a novel way of creating weather networks around the world, and both the community, the organic way, but the targeted rollouts as well. So specifically for what we're discussing, I'm really looking forward for the next steps because we are becoming more mature. Operationally, we are becoming more capable, and we can absorb more stations. So that's all I would like to add here. That I'm looking forward operationally to the next ones. Although we are still rolling out, the first deal.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think, but it is coming to an end shortly here in the next, month or so, right? So,
But it's
uh,
the
It doesn't
first.
stop though. Operationally, these things don't stop. It's going to be a constant collaboration with the deployers. Things will happen along the way. We're going to need to send replacements. Operations never stop, basically.
Actually,
But
it's a
that's true.
3 year. The duration of the program is 3 years. So the
Hmm.
people who
yeah,
participated in the project, from the centralized exchange point of view, they will receive the rewards of all those stations for the next 3 years. So there's
yeah,
a lot of rewards there, but there's a
Wow.
lot of
Yeah.
work from our end to make sure that the network, that portion of the network, remains alive for 3 years. Because again, that is a legal obligation that we have to retain the quality of the data produced on average above 80%. So, for example, if a couple of stations go offline, then we have to make sure that they are back on track.
yeah.
Hmm.
So setting
So,
up the monitoring systems, how we check these operations, and we collaborate with the deployers is important. Obviously, now it's the biggest workload because the deployments themselves are happening. So finding the locations and setting up correctly the weather stations. But then it's a constant management.
I want to
And then,
continue on the
yeah.
Vienna example that Thanos mentioned on the World Meteo Expo. When we speak with other crypto projects, especially in the defense space, and we are describing this project, they are like, "Yeah, well, that's great." I mean, they don't really get the idea, and sometimes we hear that they tried to do something similar in the past on a smaller scale. But when we went to the World Meteo Expo, people there, their mind was blown because there were like so many new parameters there for them, that what we were doing, it sounded completely crazy to them, like the whole economics, the business model around this, or the controlled rollouts, or the individuals buying stations, getting rewards and getting paid for those rewards, for the data that they contribute. So we need to remind ourselves that we are in the evolution, let's say, spectrum. We are definitely in the innovators category, and by we, I don't mean just the team in the project. I mean the whole community around WeatherXM and the people who are aware of what DeConde is and what crypto is, they are still in the innovators category. So if you go outside that bubble, people have no idea what we're doing here, and they are pleasantly surprised, hopefully. But I think we have huge opportunities in our hands to do amazing things that they were otherwise not possible from the traditional approach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Thanos and Manos. I'm excited to talk to you again next time for updates on the next project. And thanks a lot.
Likewise.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Thanks for hosting this.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.